Our first speaker, I have the great pleasure to introduce Professor Goh Boon Cher. So it's trying to figure out how to introduce him. He's actually everywhere, and he's doing a lot. He is senior consultant at the NSIS, which is at NUH. He is deputy director at the Cancer Science Institute. He is also co-director, new director of the NUS Center for Cancer Research. So if you want to know anything about cancer science, cancer treatment, he's the right person to look for. So thank you. He's a very busy man, and I guess we're very honored that he's taking time today to share about his journey with us. So Boon Cher, please.
So thanks, Yvonne. It's a pleasure to be here. Usually on Saturdays, I sleep very late to make up for the early days in the week. So I understand how difficult it is actually to get up. Okay, so today, in the next 20 minutes or so, I'm just going to take you through a journey of cancer research and some of the breakthroughs and gains that we've made in managing patients. The true scientist is coming later. That's Dennis Capet. Okay, so I start with telling you a few stories. So this is a 65-year-old Malay lady who in 2014 had a right submandibular, and those of you who don't know, this is actually a salivary gland at the bottom of the neck. And this was actually early stage, so she underwent surgery as usual, and then unfortunately developed several recurrences and kept recurring. So every recurrence, she went for surgery and went for surgery and went for surgery, eventually even went for radiotherapy, and then finally the tumor really grew out of control, and she had a real big mess. As you can see here, no need to, you don't even need a big magnifying glass. You see this big mess on the right side of the neck? Well, that was what she ended up when she saw us. And then this is another lady, and now this is a 30-year-old lady. So Prof. Ashok is right, it doesn't only strike elderly, it strikes young people as well. So this 30-year-old lady had difficulty swallowing food, a tumor in the esophagus, unfortunately, and then had surgery to remove the esophagus, pulled up the stomach, so her stomach is in the chest. And then in 2020, she came during the times of COVID, I might add, and there was recurrence in the thorax, not resectable. Radiation decided this is not a tumor that is amenable to radiation. Poor thing, so she came to see me. Okay, so this is bad news, right? But the good news is that there has been great progress against cancer. You can see that since we started in 1990, we have made significant improvement in mortality rates. So there's reduced mortality rates now. And those of us managing cancer in the clinics are seeing a lot of patients who are living longer and longer with metastatic cancers. And the other good news is that some cancers actually are coming down. So you can see some head and neck cancers coming down, liver is remaining the same, but some are actually going up, which is prostate cancer. And in females, you can see some reduction in breast cancer, but lung cancer is actually coming up. So there is some good news at the end of this tunnel. And when I started oncology, we only had this bunch of drugs, which are cytotoxic, very toxic, kill the tumor cells, but also kill the patient's good cells. But then this started in the year 2000s, and you had more targeted agents, you have small molecules, you have monoclonal antibodies, which reduce the off-target effects, so that you have a better therapeutic index. Then now you're seeing more and more of these strange names coming up, and these are engineered antibodies that can bring targeted agents like toxic chemotherapy directly to the cell. It's like a smart missile. And then you are having cell therapeutics as well, which can actually make cures in leukemia. And through the years, we have seen a steady approvals of these agents, such that now the armamentarium is really huge, and it is not easy to be an oncologist anymore. Now, one huge breakthrough is that of immunotherapy. So immunotherapy, which won two people the Nobel Prize, Tatsuki Honjo and Jim Ellison, basically transformed cancer care. So some cancers that previously were untreatable, like melanoma, renal cell carcinoma, liver cancer, are now really routinely treatable. And if you look at the survival curves, now we're seeing 5 years out. In melanoma, you're seeing a tail end of the curve here, which is on immunotherapy, meaning some people are actually cured, so-called cured, okay, of the disease. And this is lung cancer. You can see the tail end reaching here, so about 20% of patients with stage 4 cancers, which are previously considered incurable, are now being cured. However, the flip side is that the majority of the patients here are not being cured. They are actually still dying of stage 4 cancer. And cancer, we know now, is a genetic disease where the genetic gene expression mutations regulating these events lead to the cells going completely haywire, which then leads to a lot of events, what we call phenotypes, in that cancer cells actually have the characteristics of cancer cells that allow them to evade treatment, metastasize, survive, and outwit all of us. So cancer essentially is a genetic disease now. The thankful thing is that we have now genetic technology to be able to tackle this, and the cost of this technology is actually dropping. You know, what they call Moore's law? Moore's law, Moses law. So it actually the cost of sequencing a whole genome now has dropped tremendously. Okay, and this has led us to apply this to the clinic such that now, if you see a patient with metastatic cancer, we can segregate them into according to their genetic makeup, meaning their mutational makeup, and then apply more specific cancer treatments from the armamentarium that I just showed you previously to treat them. So you get a better outcome, you can imagine, and therefore patients are actually surviving longer. Now then you might ask, and this is a million-dollar question which my patients always ask, you say that we have done so much, then why haven't we really cured stage 4 cancer yet? And there are many reasons, amongst which I can just name a few. The first is that cancer cells are highly evolved. They evolve tremendously. Their genome is inherently unstable, such that by the time metastasis occurs, different metastatic lesions will carry different compositions of mutations, and therefore you can target one mutation, but the guy has got other mutations to rely on to survive. The second thing is that if you look, and we're beginning to understand this, if you look under the microscope in the cancer, you see that not all the cancer is made up of cancer cells. There are many other cells which support. They are the support cast. And these cancers and these support cells are actually not the cancer, but they're all subverted to support and encourage this cancer to grow. And then, therefore, you can imagine if you deploy a drug that kills the cancer cells, what about these cells which are supporting it? These cells can encourage the growth of the resistant cells, and you get another cancer which will thwart your efforts. And the other thing is that in case we think that these metastatic lesions are on their own and doing nothing, or they are doing independent things, that's not the case. Cancer cells actually release these small little microvesicles called exosomes, and there's essentially a communication highway happening in the body, which allows one cancer to communicate growth signals to another and encourage that guy to go further and further. So this is a communication highway, almost like an internet highway within the same person, within the individual with cancer. Now, the good thing is that now we have super technologies all present at the CSI that allows us to tackle this issue of how to understand this heterogeneity in order to make significant advances. And I cannot resist showing this picture because it's so colorful. And essentially, this picture is one of our studies where in nasopharyngeal cancer, where initially we can basically sequence every single cell in this tumor section and find out through the genetic makeup what the state of each individual cells are and what their identity is and how they are associated with each other. And basically, this is at the baseline. You can see disorganized tumor. Then you apply a drug, which is called bevacizumab, which is an anti-VEGF treatment. Within 1 week, you see the blood vessels now growing very maturely, and you see all these blood vessels growing. And then you see all these blue guys. These are actually your immune cells that come in and start to kill the cancer. So we have this kind of resolution at our fingertips nowadays. So we are definitely going to see the next breakthroughs happening in the next 5 to 10 years. But this only can come by the support of all stakeholders, including patients, well-wishers, donors, and so on. And at the CSI, we have a whole bunch of talented people, and I can say, hand to heart, that this is truly, I cannot ask for a better group of people to work with, because they are all dedicated, motivated, highly intelligent, and absolutely drawn to the task of curing cancers. We have been busy, so we have actually made some progress. There are some treatments now that in childhood TLL, which were previously untreatable. And then there is Prof. Ashok has shown that you don't need to lose 2 sets of BRCA. You only need to lose 1 set, and then you are exposed to methyl glyoxal, which is I think an aldehyde, and then you can actually make up for that loss, that intact BRCA, and cause cancer, breast cancer. I hope I got that right. And then it's quite complicated. Okay, and then of course we have done some work in nasopharyngeal cancer as well, and I showed you in the previous slide. Okay, so just coming back to those 2 patients whom I spoke to you about, just to tell you that these things are possible now. So remember that first lady, 65-year-old lady with the huge mass in the neck. Well, what we did was we'd send her tumor for sequencing, and this is routine nowadays. And this sequencing allows you to look at 350 actionable genes, look at what mutations the tumor carries, and then be able to use that to target the tumor. And you can see that this patient actually carries a RET mutation. RET is actually a gene, so RET rearrangement mutation. So this tumor is actually driven by this RET mutation, and naturally we started a RET inhibitor therapy. So happened that we had a phase 1 study on a novel RET inhibitor, and therefore we enrolled the patient. And lo and behold, look, the whole tumor has disappeared. In fact, my head and neck surgeons whom I work with, they said, wait, this kind of pictures make us look bad, you know. We all want to be medical oncologists. Look at that. That disappeared. We can't do that with surgery, you know. So this was quite good, and I like to report happily that the patient is still alive and without any tumor actually. And this is 2024, now it's 2025, so it's very good. And that lady, the poor lady who had, with recurrent, what you call GIST, gastrointestinal stromal sarcoma. So basically, the tumor was sequenced and found an NTRK mutation. So we again had an NTRK inhibitor in our phase 1 clinic. So we enrolled the patient, and you can see that tumor there sitting there. It actually has gone flatter, and the patient had 2 years of disease-free progression, progression-free. And unfortunately, 2 years later, the tumor actually, as I told you, the tumor always finds a way to to grow again. And thankfully, we had a 2nd generation inhibitor, and there you go, the tumor has shrunk. And again, I'm happy to say the patient's well today. So 2020 until 2025, you can imagine, incurable to disease stability. Well, I hope she continues to do well. So with that, I'm going to say that cancer is one word, but it's actually made out of many, many, many diseases. It's the emperor of all maladies, a malfunction of genetic control, and it's only through the efforts of stakeholders, governments, friends, and so on, that we can have improvement in diagnosis, prevention, and treatment of cancer. And with that, thank you for your support. And we have time for questions. I think I might have taken some time longer. Got time?
Yes, of course.
Oh.
Thank you, Boon Cher. Any questions? Boon Cher? Sorry, Ashok.
Yeah.
Maybe we let somebody else.
He's going to ask me the question which I cannot answer. We ask the children to ask the question.
Then you cannot answer.
Then we cannot answer even worse.
So thank you for the talk, very insightful. Very naive question.
No
why
question
is
naive.
the prevalence of cancer more in males as compared to females? I saw the chart there.
Yes.
I mean, I think
Yes.
it's more, there's more males dying of cancer than females, although really
Okay.
similar.
That is a very good question. However, I would say that the situation is not as simple as that. There are certain cancers, the demographics are different, I would say. So in males, as you can imagine, prostate cancer is very high now. In females, breast cancers are very high. Okay, but the overall, in fact, you are right. females have probably less cancers than males. And I think it's probably something to do with the immune system. That's my hunch over the years. And maybe because of the fact that males smoke more than females. But now you can see actually female smoking and vaping is quite rampant, and you will see the next wave of cancers coming. That's my hunch, but we haven't actually answered that question completely.
Boon Cher, do you think there's anything to do with general differences between genders about resistance to treatment, resistance to going to see a doctor?
Oh, I see.
I don't know, like...
Behavioral reasons. Yeah, you're right. Perhaps males, you have to drag them along to go and see the physician.
Correct.
Is that right? And then it becomes too late. Never admit they are weak. Yeah, perhaps that might be the case, but still.
Any other questions? Yes, if not,
Yes.
sorry, Ash.
Everybody should participate, yes. Ashok, yes.
It's just a quick one, really, Boon Cher. Thank you for describing all the advances. As you correctly point out, immune therapy has really revolutionized cancer treatment. So I wondered whether you could speculate as to why still less than a quarter of patients are responding to immune therapy.
Yes. Okay, I actually gave a talk last Monday on this at some immunotherapy talk. So basically, it was about combinations. Immunotherapy, in order to make the next move, we need a combination of one immunotherapy with another. The unfortunate thing is that we're only striking one part of the box, and immune response to cancer is a whole spectrum that we are missing. So I think that in order to do the next step, next big move, we need to understand this big thing about what is each tumor responding to in terms of immunotherapy. We don't have good biomarkers, unfortunately. It's very bad. The situation is bad.
Thank you
Yes.
for the great talk. So you mentioned that it's hard to target phase 4 cancer because of two reasons. Number one is fast evolving at different metastatic site. Number two is exosomal communication. So do you think we can have drugs that are targeting either essential genes for maintaining cancerous phenotype or targeting exosomal communications?
Right. Okay, so the first question is a bit more difficult to understand. Can you again repeat the first question so that I can...
Sorry, so it's mentioning that because cancerous cells that are fast evolving, they have acquired different sets of gene mutations at
Yes.
different metastatic sites.
Yes.
So do you think there are a pool of essential genes to maintain cancerous cells with
Got it.
targeting those and overkilled?
Okay, got it. So that's again a quite complicated question with multiple levers. So Professor Ashok is the world expert in DNA repair. So DNA repair is one of these things that cause the cancers to be inherently unstable and keep evolving and keep acquiring mutations. We are already having enough trouble with that. Not to mention, cancer cells not only use these mutations to evolve, they also use epigenetic events to evolve, meaning you don't change the genetic makeup, you just change the regulation of their gene expression. And we're beginning to realize that they also can change their metabolic pathways to all geared towards survival. And so your normal cells will be... So anyone who tells me they want to starve the cancer, my patients sometimes say, I don't eat sugar and all that, I should be able to starve the cancer. I say, well, you will starve your normal cells first, you will die before you reach, the cancer dies, essentially. The second question is on exosomes, right? So the exosomes, there are a lot of efforts now to try and mop out all these exosomes. In fact, I've seen some treatments where they dialyze out the blood, dialyze out blood and essentially remove the exosomes in the hope that you remove these cancer exosomes. We haven't seen much outcome from that yet, so I think, but that's one possibility. Yeah, Janet, yes.
Can I just ask a layman's question?
Oh, no,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Can immunotherapy be used for all types of cancer, or are there factors, I don't know, maybe different types of factors which makes someone or some type of cancer
Absolutely.
more amenable to immunotherapy than others?
That is actually a very sharp question. So the answer is yes. So we absolutely know that immunotherapy works for cancers that carry a lot of gene mutations, the ones where we call high tumor mutational burden. And the reason is quite clear, at least from our point of view, is that you have a high tumor mutational burden, you present a lot of so-called non-self antigens to your immune system. So your immune system can now recognize the tumor as foe. Then if you apply immunotherapy, your immune system will attack them. But there are some cancers that have very few mutations. They are what you call cold tumors. The colorectal is one of them, actually, where they don't have many mutations. Therefore, they are not that amenable to immunotherapy. But there are other factors, including like more T cells in the tumor and so on. So we're trying to get there, but it's quite a way off.
So
But
you won't recommend the
for everybody,
for everybody.
well, the physicians usually give immunotherapy to almost everybody nowadays, in the hope that it will work, but it doesn't work. It usually works in about 20% average patients. Yeah.
So
How about the younger ones?
younger one? How young do you want?
Under fives, under fives.
Yeah, where are the under fives?
I think
Maybe we should invite them in.
in the interest of time, so I think let's thank Boon Cher again for a really inspiring talk.